What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about why your split tests are not working. I'm going to give you the 9 biggest reasons which we see all the time as we consult clients on split testing, and these things are just prohibiting you from literally getting any good results. And I think if you fix them, you're going to see a massive improvement. If you don't know who I am, my name is Daniel Chabert and I run purplefire.io. We do conversion rate optimization, landing pages, and much more for our clients. And if you want any help with that, you can click the link below and you can get in touch with us. And if not, let's just dive straight into the video. There we go. Here are the 9 reasons that I really uncovered after just going through all the data. And number 1 is that you have too many variants in your tests. This might seem like something that's not really a big thing, but honestly, if you're doing lots of variants, let's say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 variants, it's very, very likely that the test will have a lot of issues, meaning it's going to be very difficult to declare any one of them a winner. There's simply not going to be enough data around for you to do so many variants. And here is a graph, not done by me though, but showing you how high the likelihood is of error when you look at the number of variants you create for your tests. Obviously, if you do an A/B test, that is going to be a very low risk, but as you go up, there will be higher risks associated with the test, and you could then not rely on the data. So consider if you're doing too many variants and if you should consider lowering them so you can rely on your data. That's one of the first issues you can solve pretty easily. Number 2 is that your data may be corrupted by having a user exposed to multiple tests at once. There's a lot of debate in the community whether it's acceptable to run several tests at the same time or if you should only run one test at a time, right? And here you can see a graph done by ConversionCraft where you can see if you have 100 visitors and you have a test on the homepage, which is an A/B test. You're now dividing your visitors up in 2 buckets. And then you have another product page test, which now you're dividing them up to even more buckets. So the chance of people seeing variant A and then variant C is 25%. And then people seeing variant A, but then variant D, there's 25% again, right? So you're splitting them up, creating all these little micro segments, and it can be hard to attribute that conversion rate increase if those tests kind of both increases conversion rate, or one is increasing conversion rate and the other one is lowering it. Let's just say that it's 5% up on the homepage and 5% down on the product page. You might call your product page tests and say it was flat, let's not actually implement it, but in reality it was a 5% increase, but due to the issue with the homepage, then you're seeing a lower result. So we always like to have it clean, one test at a time, or if you can set up an exclusive test, basically meaning that they are not allowed to be exposed to more than one test at any given time. That way you can kind of solve that by having that rule in place. Most A/B testing softwares don't allow for this. I think VWO may allow it, which they call exclusive testing. And if you put that setting on, then a user can only be exposed to one test. This is something we find really annoying for our clients because we want to run multiple tests at once. And it's just not possible in, say, Convert and many other softwares. So what we're going to be doing is basically implementing this in Supersonic, which is a software that we are creating for our clients where you can A/B test everything and just get a lot more features than the industry wants to give you right now. Going into number 3 is basically being over-reliant on metrics that are not related to your ultimate goal, which is a purchase or conversion. So basically you will see a lot of people saying, well, if we can get 12% more people to a category page, we know that, a certain percentage of those people will actually end up converting. So we can sort of say that's a conversion increase on its own. But that's very problematic because you actually don't have that data. You don't know if you can rely on that. You want to follow the visitors to the end, and you want to make sure you rely on the metric that actually moves the needle for you, which in this case is a purchase. So seeing a 20% uptick in add to cart or a 15% uptick in a product page visit doesn't really mean much. You're going to have to still make sure that conversion rate increases. Otherwise, you're going to have some very false positives and not going to be able to rely on that data, honestly. So keep that in mind. Secondary information is super good, but it should never stand on its own. And if you're solely relying on the secondary metrics, then you're not going to see the result you're looking for as well. Number 4 is ignoring returns and profit in the equation of A/B testing. So everyone is looking at revenue per visitor and they're not looking at returns. So let's say we're doing an A/B test where we are implementing a better sizing chart, or we are saying, for example, this product runs small in size. So something that influences the size you pick when you're buying the product. Now, obviously, for this test to have an impact, you might not see an increase in conversion rate at all. Because it's not like, oh my God, oh, thank you for that information, I'm more likely to buy now. It doesn't work that way. But if you were to take and tag every single visitor and then follow them for the next 2 months and see the return rate on the control version without this information, and then the variant, which is your new information about the sizing that kind of solves an issue with sizes, and you monitor how many returns you're getting from those pools of people, you might see that your test is actually lowering your returns. And for fashion brands and other brands where sizing or colors or something like that is really, really important, this can mean a lot of money. Actually, profit is very much tied to your returns because returns are so unprofitable and you're losing so many clients due to high returns. The only way you can solve this is to set up a data warehouse that tags every visitor, keeps them in a data warehouse, and you track whether they will return that product over the next couple of months. And then at the end of those 2 months, you then do a new analysis to see whether your test actually reduced returns or not. But no A/B testing software allows you to do this outside of the box. This is another reason why at Supersonic, which is the software we are creating right now, we have decided to do a data warehouse and server-side tracking as part of the same software, because then we have this ability to look up your returns, and you can actually do tests where one of the primary objectives is not conversion rate, but to reduce the number of returns. And this requires for you to monitor the test even after you stopped it. It's not even live. Monitor the people to see how many people return the product. And in order to do profit, you will need to have that into the equation, obviously, but also you want to look at your gross margins, your fulfillment fees. That requires you to put that information into an A/B testing software, which can then hook it up to a data warehouse. And then you don't just have revenue per visitor, you also have profit per visitor. And you can see, instead of just seeing at the end of 2 weeks, here's how much revenue each test generated, the conversion rate each test generated. Now you also have profit that each test generated. And obviously it's a better metric to look at profit than just revenue. But no one wants to take it that far. And we think that's upsetting. And that's why it's time for a change. And it's really important that somebody creates that software. We hope that will be us. But no matter what, it's good for you to be aware of returns and profit really missing in your equation right now. Running a multivariate test. Well, this is kind of like the opposite of the first one I gave you, that some people are afraid of running a multivariate test and they will only run an A/B test. We have some best practices here that really work well for us. A good way to start this is to run a multivariate test for, it could be a number of days, it could be 14 days, and lowering your statistical significance percentage a little bit. We like to look at 90% to 95%. So if we hit 90% statistical significance with 14 days, we are willing to pause the test and take the biggest winners and just test those in a final test where we will go to 95 plus statistical significance. So let's say I have an A, B, C, D, E multivariate test, so multiple variants. I'll run it for 2 weeks and I'll find out that I can get 90% statistical significance at that point, and there are 2 clear winners. I'll then take those winners and launch it again and run that as a secondary test where my statistical significance level is higher with 95% plus. So this is one thing that you can do if you want to do multivariate testing and you cannot wait for that really, really high statistical significance. You can run it for a little bit shorter and then run the winners as a secondary test. The other, number 6 really, and this is a big one, is shutting off variants during a test. Shutting off variants can be really, really bad. It basically pollutes the whole test. So let's say we're running an A, B, C, D, E test and I find out that the E version is a 80% conversion loss and it's killing the business, and maybe the client is telling me like, you need to shut that off now because it's really going to hurt our business. So I need to shut it off. And then a lot of agencies are just being lazy. They shut off variant E and they keep running the rest. But this is going to really pollute the data. So what you want to do here is shut off everything and then launch the test again with the variants that are not clearly losing, right? So you may want to run ABC and that's it. You don't have to run the biggest losers. So that's how you want to do the things. You don't want to actually shut off one variant and continue the test. You need to pause and launch it again. Number 7 is testing without proper sub goals clearly defined. And this is an important one. As I gave you here in the example, if you have on-site search and you're doing a test, what if you don't have the ability to find out what people search for, what pages they're actually landing on? Are there any 404 pages or any bugs or anything like that? So if I did a search test and I don't have the ability to dive into the search results, that came from it, then it's very, very hard for me to come up with potential solutions for that test, like things I can do to actually fix the test if it's not winning. So it's really, really important that you can test these things. And this is the example from before. Let's say I do a sizing chart test, but I cannot actually see my return rates after a couple of months to see if it actually impacted returns. Like, it's impossible then for me to do a test related to sizing charts, because changing the sizing chart is likely it's not going to increase your conversion rate that much, but it might really, really lower your return rate. So having sub goals clearly defined. And the way you can do that is go into analytics and set up these different goals. It requires somebody who knows how to do it. So for example, if it's a search goal, I can set up that I want to have all the information on every single thing people search for. And then once this test is done, I'm going to dive in and see what people actually search for, what pages they landed on in the very end. And if I can see they're clearly searching for a specific product and it's only getting 3 results, but I know we have 20 products in that category, and for some reason those 17 products are missing, well, then I can fix that and launch the test again. And obviously, if I do this for the queries that are more popular, you're going to see a massive conversion increase. So setting those sub goals are really, really important, and something we see that most brands or agencies are just not doing. This one is kind of a interesting one. I think a lot of brands are not thinking about it, but testing dramatic changes that may surprise the customer. This can be, for example, a new landing page, and you want to launch this landing page for cold traffic, and you decide that the best way to see if this landing page will work is to test it against a product page which sells exactly the same product but just on a product page. Now you're testing this against a product page that also is shown to people that are warm, have seen your brand, and maybe have clicked 5-6 different products, and then they go to the product page to see the product. But now out of nowhere, they are not served a PDP, they're served a landing page, and has completely different style, design, it's way longer, and this completely shocks the customer. They're expecting a PDP, but it's a landing page. That may lower the conversion rate. So it's very important that if you're testing pages that you want to use primarily for cold traffic, top of funnel stuff, that you're not testing it against a PDP that also gets warm traffic, because you're basically going to put your landing page at a disadvantage. So what you can do here is change the audience. So it's only going to be served when it's a visitor that has that page as a page of entry to your website. So it's only going to show when the first page they visit is either the landing page or the PDP, right? So it's sort of like a rule you put. You can also set it to only cold traffic coming from Facebook and Instagram and so on. That way, they have no prior experience with your site. And if they land on a landing page, they're just going to assume this is what your website looked like. Very, very important. Otherwise, your test is going to lose. And we've seen that a lot. And it's just because they simply don't know how to set it up correctly. So you need to make sure if you're testing something that is going to be used for cold traffic, don't test it up against a page that also gets warm traffic. The last one I want to show you, and this is a common mistake, is that you're not excluding your staff, like developers, your other agencies, and so on, and they may be diluting your data. The reason for that is you have staff, you have HR, you have developers that are doing test orders all the time, you have agencies that are testing if the pixel is firing, and so on and so on and so on. If you're not excluding them, you're basically going to get tests that are going to be heavily diluted. What if someone is doing a test order of $10,000 because he was just clicking the add to cart button 100 times? Now you're concluding that test is going to be a loser because it's probably not working right, or a winner, which is also not the case. So you want to be excluding them. You can get IP addresses of everyone. That's one way that works quite well if they're all sitting in the same office. But what you can also do is basically make sure your test is only served to cold traffic. So the source is Facebook, Google, whatever. That can be a really good way to set things up, because at least you're not going to get all your staff and your agencies. And it can also be that you can segment based on countries. If you know that your developers are sitting in Asia, you can completely exclude Asia if you're not running traffic to that country. So there's different ways to do it, but the easiest one is to basically make sure the audience is only exposed to your ads, basically, right? So only people coming from Instagram and Google and Facebook and TikTok and so on. And that way you're going to eliminate a lot of these issues. And most of the time you're looking anyway to see if this works really well on your ads, because that's the way you're scaling. So anyway, guys, these were 9 tips for you to fix and 9 reasons why your split tests are not working. And if you fix all these issues, you're going to see massive improvements in your conversion rate, optimization, and your split testing. If this is a lot and you're like, oh, I cannot deal with all this stuff, that's just too many things to keep track of, then you can always send us an email, schedule a call, and we can consult with you on how to help you with these things, or we can completely take over and just do all the work for you instead. instead. So anyway, please do like and subscribe if you think this had value, because then I'm going to be putting more effort into new videos. See you soon.